Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So let's start. I think we have about more than 100 participants online. So welcome, everyone. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Dr. Kwan Ban Ho. I'm actually the assistant professor from the Department of Mechatronics and Biomedical Engineering, Lee Kong Chian Faculty of Engineering and Science, University Tunku Abdul Rahman. So this webinar is actually jointly organized by the Center for Corporate and Community Development and Lee Kong Chian Faculty of Engineering and Science. I will be moderating today's webinar titled Introductions to Generative AI Tools, ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion by Engineer Dr. Danny Ng Wee Kiat. So Engineer Dr. Danny Ng Wee Kiat is an assistant professor in the Department of Mechatronics and Biomedical Engineering at University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah, where he currently serves. He completed his PhD in engineering in year 2021 and specialized in the field of robotics and its practical applications. Since 2019, he has been a registered professional engineer with the Board of Engineers Malaysia. He actively engaged in industry-focused research collaboration with notable companies like TF AMD Microelectronics Penang Sdn Bhd and Greatech Integrations Malaysia Sdn Bhd. Additionally, he provides consulting services to MIMOS Berhad, Malaysia's National Applied R&D Center, specifically in robot development. So moreover, Danny actually contributes to STEM activities through his involvement with the Kuala Lumpur Engineering Science Fair, which is an initiative dedicated to fostering the interest in STEM subjects throughout Malaysia. He is also a HRD Corp accredited trainer as well. So there will be a brief intro to this engineer, Dr. Danny. So before we start, so if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. I will actually bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Okay, now, without further delay, let us turn the time over to Engineer Dr. Danny Ng Wee Kiat. Dr. Danny, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Kwan. Yeah, so before I start, let me share my screen first. Okay, so I hope everyone can see my screen. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Kwan, for the introduction. So now, first of all, I would welcome everyone to this webinar itself. Again, I think Dr. Kwan have actually went through like what have I did before and things like that. A bit to add on from what Dr. Kwan have is for the past year, I've also been looking into how to integrate ChatGPT together into robotics application. That is where I've the chance to use ChatGPT in a way to facilitate with robot communication. Now, so I think for everyone over here, there are quite a number of you, and you might be coming from different background and different area. So the topic that I'm going to talk about today is an introduction to the generative AI tools, specifically on ChatGPT and also on Stable Diffusion. So later on through the chat itself, I'll show you some demonstration on how to use it. And maybe somewhere in the middle of the webinar today, we can try to have a live demo of using ChatGPT and also Stable Diffusion. So later on, I will actually open up, to some of you to propose some of the ideas that you want to try out. You can post it in the chat, so we can actually run through this together also in the webinar. So now let's go through the flow of the webinar today. I think the first thing over here is I'm going to cover a short introduction to generative AI tool. what are they, and what is their capabilities. And then I'll touch a bit on the current limitation of such tools that's existing. What are the things they cannot do in a way. So at the end, we'll have a short summary on the generative AI tool itself. So if we look into the tools over here, the two tools that I'm going to cover today is the text generation and also image generation tools. So these are the two things that we are going to look into today. The first, I think, is the text generation tools. I think ChatGPT is one of the famous one that I think everyone knows. Just to check, whoever don't have a ChatGPT account, maybe you can type, one in the chat just to see who don't have the account. Whereas we have Bart over here also, which is chatbot by Google itself. So you can try for both of these services, you can create account for free. So for those that don't have the account, maybe after the talk today, you can go and try to create an account over there. So yeah, I can see a few of you that don't have the account, but you can see also, after this talk, we can go and create, maybe you can try out the account. Now, this is on text generation tools. Then we also have image generation tools. So, not only text generation, currently AI could also generate images. So, some of the examples over here, we have DALL-E, Midjourney, Adobe Firefly, Stable Diffusion. So these are tools that you can use to actually, generate images based on the prompt. So now, this is an example of tools that you can use. But what are they? So it is actually important, for us to understand how it works, and to understand the capability of the tools, and to understand the limitation of the tools. So based on these three things, then only we can actually utilize the tools accordingly. If we don't know how it works, we might expect too much from the tools itself. So I won't be going in depth, I won't go into how the AI models run or in depth. So I will only touch the surface on how it works. We will focus more on the capabilities of the tools for the session today. So at the end, we'll touch a bit on the limitation also. So now let's look at how it works. So we'll be looking at two things. We are looking at ChatGPT and also Stable Diffusion. So for the first item over here, we are actually talking about how text generation work. So over here, this is a representation of how text generation is usually working. Given the input prompt itself, we type in something, it actually generates the next word accordingly. So for example, if there's a sequence of word called we need to, what is the next most popular word itself? So when you use ChatGPT, they will actually go through a list of all characters or all words, and then they choose the most probable one and then put it into the next sequence. So this is a very basic representation of how ChatGPT works. It is actually getting the next sequence of the word, and then they build up one by one until it generates a coherent and also, a complete sentence itself. So this is a very basic representation of how text generation works. Then the next one is image generation. So if you have seen, I think, news article or online, articles, you can see that a lot of people are using image generation. So basically what it does is they actually train on a lot of images. They actually decompose it into their noise, the latent image itself. And they actually do a reverse process of that to regenerate the image from this noise data given an input. So basically, if we look into generation itself, mainly text or image generation, it is actually based on a large amount of data. So for example, if you talk about ChatGPT, it is trained on a lot of data, a lot of text data that's scraped from the internet. Same thing with Stable Diffusion. There are a lot of image data that are scraped from the internet itself. And from there, they build up the network. And we as user itself, user of all these tools itself, we can actually use them and to create or to assist us in different cases. So now the focus today will be more on the capabilities. I think the first one is on ChatGPT itself. For those that I think a lot of people here might have used it before. If you look at the tools itself, if you have created an account and you log in, you will see an interface like this. You have a chat area. Over here, you will have like example, an example prompt that you can click on, and you have an input text box on the bottom over here. So now, I'll go through a few more slides on the capabilities. So if you have like anything that you want to try or you wanted to know, you can type in the Zoom chat box now. After I go through the capability, I'll run through a live demo. Maybe I'll choose one of the example that is in the chat box. Then we can run through a live test on the ChatGPT platform itself. So okay, let me continue. Well, if you have anything you wanted to try, just type in the chat box. We'll come back to that later. So now, if you look into a prompt itself, so I have a recorded video over here. Now, one of the biggest use for ChatGPT is to assist in coding. So over here, the example shown is actually on show me a code snippets on creating a website sticky header. So once this is prompted, it will actually help to generate information, because ChatGPT itself is trained on data that is obtained from the internet, and on the internet there's a lot of like development guide, coding guide, and all those. So it can actually base on the information over here and generate a page accordingly. So this is one of the example. Another one is concept. So it can try to come up with concept. For example, over here, the prompts is come up with a concept for retro style arcade game. So you can see over here, it can actually generate like ideas. One thing over here is the generation is based on pre-trained data. So what they did is they will combine different information that the ChatGPT is actually trained on, and then be able to come up with the idea over here. So for example, over here, there are 5 ideas. One is Galactic Defender, one is Time Travel Quest, Pixel Pizzeria, Mega Maze Madness, and they describe the game over here. So one thing that a lot of people asked me before, like during the different previous talk and things like that, is what is the difference between GPT 3.5 and GPT 4? So I've given the same thing over here, and I've run it through GPT 4. The only difference is GPT-4 is more in-depth. So you can see that, it actually gives settings, objective, gameplay. So because GPT-4 allows for more tokens, so more numbers of words that can be generated. So most of the time, it will generate a more detailed output compared to GPT 3.5. So over here, you can see the generation of 5 different ideas. So you can see like, things that are shown here, which is quite different compared to the GPT 3.5 output. Then another, example over here is this is a receipt that is, I think I found this online, one of the receipt from Walmart store. So I've used my camera to actually take a photo of it and then use OCR to recognize the image over here. So based on this receipt itself, I'm trying to actually create a table for it. So you can see that by using ChatGPT, it can actually help to tabulate the information over here. So later I'll show you all these results within the ChatGPT platform itself. Then you can see like over here, it can actually generate the details. The input is actually messed up because, sometimes image to text is not that clear, but it could actually reproduce the receipt over here, similar to the input. One more thing is, if you have access to GPT-4, you could actually use, there are quite a number of plugins that you can put in. And for this plugin itself, we could actually, GPT-4 can actually use some of the tools over here. One of the tools that are helpful is actually on, creating charts. This chart over here is actually created by ChatGPT. I think recently Malaysia government actually released the data there's a data.gov.my, which is a public website, and they have released in 2023 what are the top 10 car brand. So over here, we have the top 10 car brand. So like on the bottom over here, I actually asked, help me create a pie chart. So, I've asked it to create, it'll take some time to run because it'll take some time to generate, because for ChatGPT-4 is trying to use different tools that is available as plugin. You can see it spinning over here. It's a bit small, but you can see it spinning, and it will create a pie chart based on the input over here. So this pie chart is created. Based on this itself, right, you could actually, like for example, write a description for me. So over here, I'm asking it to write a description of the car itself. So it is actually, based on the data that is given, based on, the chart itself, it is writing a description for the pie chart that is generated. So if you look into this, what if I'm actually, for example, I'm a reporter trying to write about, last year car, what is the top 10 brand, for example. So I could do something like this. I could, give a context. So over here, I've actually tell like ChatGPT, this data is obtained from, a website called data.gov.my, and I've given some of the description. from the website itself. This is actually a description extracted from the website data.gov.my. And then based on this article, based on this information, I actually ask them to help to prepare an article in the style of Business Insider online, because I want ChatGPT to emulate a certain style of writing. So once given this prompt, right, I would be able to generate one of the article. So this is one of the article that is generated. And in Malaysia, we have multi-language. So I can actually ask it to create the same article, but in different language. So if we look into ChatGPT itself, it is more of a text generation. So let me show you on the website itself how it is. So if you look into, now these are the example that I've shown. For example, this one over here is the example for HTML. Show me a code snippet of a website with CSS and JavaScript. So you can actually see the HTML over here, CSS over here. This is more on coding side. Then I have the tabulating of receipt. So you can have different tables that are generated. So for example, you have a table over here that is generated based on the input. If you notice, the input itself is not that structured, but it can actually pick up some of the important elements within the prompt over here and use that as the output. So then you have your slides over here. So over here, you can see that, these are the input. Over here, I can actually run it to give it, generate a pie chart. Can you write a description? So it is describing everything over here. And, based on some context over here, it is generating the article. So I did not paste the full article within the slides itself, but you can see, this is the article generated, which is almost similar to what you have seen in, almost all online news itself. So, it can even give like some closing over here. For example, as 2023 unfold, whether product can maintain or cannot. So it is written in a certain style that you actually prompt to it. So next thing in Malaysia, I think you have different articles. You can actually translate it to Malay or Chinese. It can actually take in quite a number of language for ChatGPT itself. So over here, this is in Malay. It's the same article, but written in Malay and also in Chinese itself. So you can see that, over here, they did state that there might be slight difference in meaning, because this is just a warning to the user. Whatever that is generated, it is important for us as the user of this to check through and verify what is written is correct or not. So because it is all generated based on probability, and based on this probability, there is a possibility that something different or something wrong is produced. So let's look at one. I think to summarize, I think in the chat itself, I think one of you have actually suggested like how to get ChatGPT to summarize a report or an article. So now let us try just to do that. I'll be running it in GPT 3.5 and also GPT-4 to see whether it is different. Let me just get an article. So let me just get an article from the Star so that we can do a summary. So for example, I've copied a news on the latest review. This is the first article that I see on the Star's website. Oops. So this is the article itself. So yeah, you can see over here, their update is January 2022, the data. So it won't know anything that's after that. So if you notice over here, I've just keyed in the title by accident, but you can see that from the title itself, you can try to understand the concept. So for example, if you want to summarize something, you can do like, can you summarize the article below and extract the key points in point form. So what it does is it goes through the things that you put in, and it tries to extract out things that are important from the article itself. So if you see over here, you can actually provide context towards ChatGPT itself, and it will try to actually get the information. You can also put multiple articles, like for example, you have 10 articles. If you're using GPT 3.5, you might not be able to put in 10 articles because there's a token limit, means that there's a length limit for the input. But GPT 4, you have a longer length, so you can actually write more into it. So I think one more demonstration over here, I think someone asked whether if two users key in the same prompt, would they get the same thing? You will get different things. So I've put in this one for the first one. And I can use back the exact same prompt, start a new chat. You will notice that there will be slight difference within the generated prompt itself. So if I put in, let's wait until this is done, so you can see a lot of things that are generated over here. So it generated the objective, target audience, content category, content structure, what are the engagement initiative. And let me stop this. And I put another new chat over here, put in the same thing. If you notice, what is generated is different. So every time you actually ask it to generate, you will actually get different value. So, well, I think that is one thing for ChatGPT. Let's move on to the next thing. If not, we don't have enough time to finish it. Now, another thing over here is that I want to introduce is actually on Stable Diffusion. So one thing is on text generation. Another one that we're looking into today is actually on image generation. So now, if you notice the I've actually have this as my backdrop for the first slide. This image over here is not drawn, but it is actually created from Stable Diffusion. So I've put a prompt like a robot typing on a keyboard, entering prompt for a chatbot, and it actually created this image that I've used for the backdrop. So Stable Diffusion is another tool that you can use to generate different images, generate, for example, you need some backdrop, or you need, certain images for your slide. When giving a prompt, you can actually use it to, generate the output itself. So now, same thing here. I will show you some of the capabilities of this through the website itself. So if you have any idea on like what picture you want to generate, maybe you can drop it into the text box. I could help to run it to see how is the output. So while going through some of the capabilities over here, you can actually go ahead and, type in the chat box so we can try out later. So if, for example, over here, you can see some of the example down here. Like they have magical realism, like Ghost Rider in the sky, cherry blossom, polar bear. So I will just try something over here. So a person riding a horse, see on the moon. So basically, when you run generation, it will take some time for it to run. I'm not on the pro account over here because I seldom use image generation. But anyhow, it will take some time for it to load. So while it's loading, so I can show you another example that I did before. So if you notice over here, they have stable diffusion XL, they have reimagined stable doodle. So you can actually draw, and it will help you to complete the rest. So one example over here is, you want to have a certain control on the image over here. Like for example, this one, the doodle is actually like this. This is an owl, and it will generate the image over here. This is the outcome of the image and different style. So, yep, I think this is done. So, just now I key in the prompt, person riding a horse on the moon. So you can see, sometimes the prompt is actually, it depends on how you structure the words. Sometimes it will, the moon is actually behind rather than on the moon. So you can see all the image over here. The surface is the moon, but you can still see the moon. So for example, you want to see Earth at the background, then you need to put into the prompt. So it is important for you to, like, for example, write the prompt accordingly. So, but sometimes you can see the generated image is a bit weird. For example, this horse only have 3 legs rather than 4. So yeah, this is another one that you could try out, the doodle image over here. You can draw something and it will actually, generate it out. My drawing is not that good, but let me just try to draw something. So I have a human over here. And for example, this human is wearing a square glass. Now, for example, I'm trying to prepare some fantasy art itself, and this is actually a dwarf wearing glasses. For example, I want the background to be walking down Castle Hallway. So hit generate, it will take some time because I'm actually on the free tier of this tool itself. So it will based on your prompt and actually generate some of the like for example, the information itself. So for example, over here you can see like, this person is actually wearing a square graph walking in the castle itself. So you can see it is quite useful, to actually generate images like this. Then I think one more example that I wanted to show is actually on they have uncrop. So for example, you have any images that you don't have the background, you want to increase the background itself, it could actually help to increase the background itself. So you see all these the landscape behind are all generated after it is given how much you want to actually enlarge. You can see some which are not that real. You can see the hand over here. It is still a technology that is under development currently. So some image are real, some image can be improved. It's more towards how you edit and how you prompt the image itself. So now back to the slides. Just now I've talked about, like, for example, I'm actually preparing an article, for the best car in Malaysia. So, and I need an image that I can use as my cover image for my article itself. So for example, I can actually use this to generate, this is I give a prompt, street full of car in the middle of Kuala Lumpur, a drone photography, and I want it to be photographic. So I can get something like this. The skyline looks like the building you will see in Kuala Lumpur, not exactly the same. You can see a lot of cars in the main area. So over here, you can actually use this to generate like cover images and to see whether it is suitable for your use case or not. So with this itself, I think it shows you some of the capabilities of stable diffusion tools or image generation tools that you could use. Now, one thing is the current limitation. This is something that is very important. We have to understand to be able to utilize the tools properly. So one of the biggest drawback in using generation tool is hallucinations. These are one thing you need to remember, right? Generation tool actually have limited context window. It only have context of what you provide to as an input, and it does not learn from experience. So whatever the data they use to train, that is what they know and what they can generate. So sometimes when you use, it will actually generate like fake information. So this information is actually doesn't exist in the coding library itself, and it is actually generated. So it is important for you as a user to be able to spot all this. I think one of the biggest, most famous case nowadays is, I think this is in May 27, where a US lawyer actually used ChatGPT to research law cases, and it is actually all fake, because ChatGPT generates all fake references. So one thing over here, remember, it is a chatbot. It is not a place for you to actually get facts. Like, for example, facts with references. So one thing over here, recalling information that are trained within ChatGPT itself is actually quite good. If you can see from the test score over here, these are exam results they put the chatbot on. And there are also different categories that the chatbot is actually better in compared to the others. So these are things that you need to take note of when you're using the tools itself. So when we are using it, right, it is very important for us to try to be able to develop and optimize the prompting itself to ensure that what we get is actually what we wanted to see. So it is important on that. If you notice just now on the images itself, sometimes the image that are generated is not perfect. So for example, you have distorted figure for human figure over here, extra limbs. So all these things can be actually, if you actually prompt it correctly, you can actually reduce, things like that from happening. So these are the current limitation of the tools that you can see. So let me go through some notable use cases. I will share two of them. I think there's a trend in the US to actually have books that are written by, it's not fully written by ChatGPT, but it's usually an author steering ChatGPT itself. I think if you go to Amazon, you can see a lot of books that are authored by a person and another person, which is ChatGPT over here. Especially on like fantasy books and things like that, there are quite a number of people that use ChatGPT to create, and also at the same time using tools such as Stable Diffusion to generate the artwork. So basically, they created the whole book with the help of AI tools. Another notable use case is actually in programming. They do pair programming with AI itself. So it actually helps, to alleviate some of the burden of a programmer itself. So basically, if you look about AI tools itself, I think to summarize what we have and what we go through today, if you look at news and articles itself, AI tools is actually currently transforming industries. There are quite a number of different use case and different way on how all these tools are used. Mainly for us as users, or for example, a lot of students, or maybe working adults over here, is important for us to continue to upskill and to understand what is the latest tool. And if we are able to utilize it, why not use it to help us in our work. And one thing important, be aware of limitation to ensure that you can use it effectively. Stay up to date and experiment with all these tools to see whether it will help out in your projects or not. So basically that summarizes everything that I would want to go through. I'll pass it back to Dr. Kwan, and maybe you can take some of the questions in the chat also.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Dr. Danny Ng. So we'll take some time for questions from now. So just a reminder, if you have questions, please be sure that to type the question into the chat box. So I think there are quite a number of questions over here. So the first two questions, I think Dr. Danny has actually answered. So let me go to the next one. Can we attach a report file and get a ChatGPT to summarize it?
Yes. Actually, if you are on the ChatGPT 4 version, there's a plugin for you to upload files. So I think I did not show this in detail, but there's different plugin over here that you can use. So yeah, if you want to input files, you can actually put in files if needed. But I would say, because there's some limitation on the number of characters, it is better for you if you want to just copy the details into the into the chat box itself. That would be a better way to control.
Okay, thanks. Next one will be, can you tell us how to use AI for publishing?
I think main thing over here, I won't be able to tell you exactly for publishing, but I think I've used publishing article writing as an example for today's talk. So you won't be using it directly, as I think there are some websites currently that generate news automatically using ChatGPT. But I think if we don't go until that portion, if we use it as a way to actually help us to write or to write better, especially for us, I think most of us here within the call are not native English speaker or not native English writer. So ChatGPT can help with the choice of word and also, use selection of, we can actually prompt, like, for example, the target audience, and we can pass in, for example, short key points and, help get ChatGPT to help with the writing itself. So I think that way we can actually use it for publishing.
Okay, thanks. Next one will be, there's a participant asking whether the plagiarism can be detected using ChatGPT.
As of now, I think I've Turnitin actually have the AI detection. I've tried it, but it fails to detect an article that's generated on by ChatGPT. So unfortunately, it's a bit hard to detect as of now.
Okay. So how about the pictures generated from this ChatGPT will belong to us?
Okay. I think on the Stable Diffusion website just now, this one, you can see there's a watermark over here. So actually, if you are on the professional pricing, you would be able to use the picture for commercial usage. Yeah, not sure why it's in Japanese. Let me get. So if you are in, for example, the pro pricing itself, I think you are able to use it without the watermark itself.
Okay, there's another participant asking, is there any way to use the ChatGPT 4 without paying?
No. Unfortunately, yes, ChatGPT 4 is a paid version. I've been using ChatGPT 4, GPT-4 without the chat through API calls also. Both actually will cost money. So there's no free way to use ChatGPT 4.
Okay, the next participant asking, how do I actually document the information which I obtained from the ChatGPT?
I think one important thing to take note over here is do not use ChatGPT as a source. I think the news article that I show over here shows you that it is important to check your source, because whatever that you get from ChatGPT may be fake. So you can use it to help with writing. You can use it to help with summarizing things that you pass to it. Context is very important over here. So do not trust everything that is from ChatGPT. So there's a possibility of hallucination. Like, for example, this case over here, they actually cited fake previous case. So again, do not try to use it as a source. But if you are generating some basic ideas or basic way on how things work, it is still possible to use the information, but not citation references.
Okay, thanks. Next questions will be, is it encouraged for the students, no matter their level of studies, to use the AI tools to do their assignments or homework?
For this one, I think there's two parts over here. If you fully use the tool to generate an answer, which is actually doable using ChatGPT, I don't think that is the right way to use the tool itself. But if you use the tool to assist with, for example, your writing in English is not good, you provided some context itself that you have researched beforehand, and for it to try to generate or try to create something which is uniquely yours, I think that is the way to encourage students to use the tool itself. So it is important on how the tool is used for students.
Okay, next one, there's a participant asking, can I impose my portrait to a picture by using the generative AI tool?
Can. Because one thing is you can generate a background, like what I've shown previously on the person. Let me see, do I have it? So, previously it is empty, the background. You can actually add the background over here. So you are able to do it. So previously it's empty.
Okay, one more question. Can we commercialize the result from ChatGPT, such as putting those results in a business website with the objective to sell the products?
One thing over here is depends on the result that you are trying to sell. If you say that, for example, you are using ChatGPT to generate a book, I think one of the notable example over here is very obvious. The book is written by ChatGPT. So, for example, if you put it as a ebook and sell it, you can. If, for example, you talk about, you want to create a website and you are using ChatGPT to help you with, for example, search engine optimization for your web pages. I mean, you can straight away and go, generate different articles, post it on your website, blog every week, to generate traffic, to sell something. It is all possible to use the ChatGPT to do that.
Thanks. So could you please share your experience on how generative tools can be used in robotics?
I think for this one, I've been trying to implement it as human interaction. Because we could actually use like, for example, ChatGPT as an interface. Because one of the biggest thing over here is how we can control a robot. So if you give instruction to a robot, different people might speak differently. So we are actually using the ChatGPT itself as an interface to translate what a person give into a way that a robot can receive, and to be able to actually work on managing the task itself in the robot.
Okay. Can you share any use case of generative AI in manufacturing industry?
As of now, I think in manufacturing industry, it would be a bit hard to directly implement it into any machine, because in terms of generative AI, if you notice, every time it is actually given, like, for example, it gives different output every time. So most of the time, in terms when we talk about manufacturing or automation, we want a stable and we want a repetitive output itself. So it's a bit hard to use generative AI, and I have not seen a use case before for manufacturing itself.
Okay, is plugin available on ChatGPT 3.5?
Don't think so. Let me just do a quick check on this. Yes, not available.
How about
It's-
Bing?
it's-
Bing have any plugins on this?
Don't think so also. Yes, don't think so. Yeah, it's only on GPT-4.
Okay, thanks. I think we'll go for the last question due to time's there's a constraint. Do you recommend us to go for paid versions to use it more effectively, or will us actually miss out much if use the free version?
In terms of the generated output, the paid version give you, like for example, I showed just now, the paid version actually give you a more in-depth explanation. If you use a free version, you might need to do a few more prompts to get whatever you get in the paid version. So I think that is the biggest difference. Another difference is actually the accuracy of the information itself. The paid version is, I think, is until the data is until January 2022. And if you notice in the limitation slide itself, the accuracy of the information, V3 versus V4, you can see there's some difference in the category and also in the accuracy of the information. So GPT-4, is trained on much more data. That's why, it can actually give a more accurate value itself.
Okay, I think thanks, Engineer Dr. Danny. So this will be the last questions. So thank you and stay safe, everyone. Bye.